The Badgers collapse in overtime after fighting back in the second half. The Badgers drop another one. Is this thing fixable? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being a part of this community. My name is Ryan Herring. Today's episode brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com. Place your live NFL bets all season long. Let's talk about this game. The Badgers start slow and they finish slow. Good second half, but they drop a game to Villanova, which quite frankly, outside of that second half, Nova outplayed Wisconsin. We got a lot to talk about. What went right? What went wrong? Nolan Winter showing up in a big, big way. He was maybe the bright spot to this game, but there's a lot of issues on this team. All right, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the issues, because I feel like that's where we need to start. I think we need to start with the issues, and we need to have a bit of a therapy session here.
Hey, Doc, I need to talk about it. My head is going to explode. What the heck just happened? It's the therapy session on Locked On Badgers.
Okay, there's a couple really big issues on this team, and they shouldn't be issues that surprise anybody because they've been here all season long, but we need to talk about them because the 4 spot on this team is an abject disaster right now. The 4 spot with Bialuskas, the 4 spot with Austin Rapp, it is just a disaster. Bialuskas gives you 2 points and 4 fouls. Rapp gives you 0 points and 2 fouls. Austin Rapp, if he's not hitting shots, he really right now in this moment, and he's young, I still think that there's a good jump shooter in there. I really do. I think the water will eventually find its level with him. But if he's not hitting shots, he doesn't give you a whole bunch, Austin Rapp. He needs to shoot. And he was brought here. This was a big part of this retool. Austin Rapp was brought in to be a starter that shot 7 threes a game and made 3 or 4 of them. He was brought in to be a complete floor spacer that forced teams to get out and create space and gravity and would open up the middle of the paint for drivers and post-ups. If he's not shooting, because defensively, and Corey, this is a great comment, Rapp and AB have no clue defensively is destroying this team. They haven't been good defensively. And if they're not scoring and if they're fouling, again, you got 2 points and 6 fouls from your 2 fours today. And you went into overtime. If you get anything from the 4 spot, if Carter Gilmore is your starting 4, you probably win this game. And listen, I'm not trying to kill anybody. Bialuskas is young, Rapp is young. They're both really young. There's a lot of years of basketball, and maybe it's on this coaching staff and this roster construction effort that we're counting too much on 2 players that are still pretty young in their growth arc, but it is what it is. The 4 spot is killing this team, offensively and defensively. You could live with Rapp defensively a little bit if he's shooting the way he's supposed to shoot. Will Hannah, Rapp is a huge disappointment. Don't care how young he is. Yeah, that's very fair. And maybe I'm making too much of an excuse for that. He's 6'10" with a stroke. Like he needs to be hitting shots. And again, when he's not, and here's the problem. The Badgers don't really have a pivot. You can't really pivot off of those 2 anywhere else. Who's another 4 on this roster that you can play with? There's nobody else you can slide into the 4 now, unless you want to put Winter there and play Garlock at the 5. Maybe you can go small, but Braden Carrington being hurt really, really complicates that, which leads into our next big problem, the bench. Yeah, Winning Gambler just as started talking about it, 0 bench. They got 2 points from the bench today. Dos. I don't know the Spanish word for points. Those point days. They got 2 points. They got 2 points off the bench. Hayden Jones had 2 points. Hayden Jones also had 2 turnovers. So the bench came in and gave you 2 points, multiple fouls, and multiple turnovers. Now, Braden Carrington, Thomas Miller, unless you play Garlock at the 5. Garlock played 1 minute today, and he's not been very good defensively. He struggles with pick and rolls. I actually don't hate this adjustment, though, Thomas. I think you can put Garlock at the 5 for a little bit, shift Winter to the 4, and you just live with some young mistakes from Garlock. But you're living with young mistakes from Bialuskas and Austin Rapp anyway. So maybe you get some more minutes for Winter at the 4 where he's a little bit better. You get more size on the floor with Garlock and you grow with some of his mistakes. But my point is there's no great answer to this. There's not. Maybe Elijah Gray would have helped. Obviously, Elijah Gray came in as part of this portal class. he was dismissed. Maybe he would have been a guy. Jagavi says, talk about Greppy. He is an option. I don't think he is. And he's a super nice kid. Greppy is a super nice kid. He's got size, but he's pretty slow-footed. I don't think he is an option, unfortunately. Nick Hitchens says, play Garlock. How much worse can it be? Yeah, I think that's a pivot I would consider because this bench is a train wreck. And I actually don't know if somebody in the comments knows this. I was running errands like all day. Everyone has holiday errands. So I don't actually know how bad the Braden Carrington injury is. I haven't had a chance to ask anybody. If he's out for an extended period, this is a massive blow to the bench. It is a big, big blow to the bench. If he is, this bench that's already pretty bad. Listen, Jack Janicki's not giving you much offensively. He's averaging 3 points per game. You might need to go to Zach Kinzinger, the shooting guard, the 4-star shooting guard. I know the plan is to redshirt him. That plans change, right? The plan for the Titanic was to make it to New York. Plans change when you hit some icebergs. This team is hitting an iceberg in the middle of the season. You may need to get Kinzinger off the bench because he can shoot the heck off the ball. Zach can shoot the leather off the ball, and he'll play hard. He's a coach's kid. That's a pivot you may need to consider because you can't go the rest of the season with a bench that gives you 2 points, 4 points. You can't go the rest of the season with a bench that gives you 6 points. This bench right now is non-existent. And you drastically miss a couple guys last year like Kamari McGee, Carter Gilmore. Those were really solid bench pieces that you really missed this year and you haven't replaced, unfortunately. If you were able to hang on to a Xavier Amos, if you were able to hang on to a Daniel Freitag, both of which would be really nice bench pieces for you, that would have been ideal. But you weren't. The team doesn't have a bench. Now, maybe Hayden Jones, who we saw get some run today, maybe he grows more into that role. Certainly he had a nice bucket in the second half. But he also turns the ball over too much. He's young. He's got some defensive issues too. I really think you maybe lean into Garlock a little bit more at the 5 and then lean into maybe Kinzinger. Maybe Kinzinger, you got to get him some minutes because you need somebody off the bench who can hit a shot. And Kins can do that. Winning Gambler says we need Kinsey. The young guys are going to have to get time because these other guys are probably gone at the end of the year. I mean, the young guys could be gone at the end of the year too. We saw that with Freitag. Everybody could be gone at the end of the year, but I don't think Kinzinger will be one of those guys, to be honest. In-state kid, having talked to him a couple times, I think he's bought into the culture. Jan says, I agree with Kinzinger. I just don't know what you have to lose at this point, unless listen, maybe there's a lingering injury. I haven't asked about it. There could be a reason that I don't know, and that's completely fair. But if not, you need some shot makers off the bench. Thomas said, I don't know, Ryan, Garlock still isn't ready. He's not. I mean, you're dead right, but there's no other options, right? It might just be one of those things where you try it to see what happens. Here's what I would say with Garlock: if you're gonna go that option, you got to keep it super simple for him. Don't try to switch screens. Don't try to hard hedge. Just have him sit and drop coverage, use his size, and then have him play physical. That's the one thing with Will Garlock. You're not going to know as a freshman all the nuances of the game. You're not going to know all the little veteran tricks, but you're a big, strong, physical athlete. Just go play physical. Go throw your body around a little bit more. I wish you would just play with a little more reckless abandon. And if that means you foul out in 8 minutes, that's cool. But go use your size and play athletically because that is a pretty good big athlete that the Wisconsin Badgers have on the bench. And you saw a game today where they struggled cleaning up defensive rebounds. Right, Villanova crashed the glass. They dominated us in second chance points. Garlock might be able to help there. But again, as I speak about this, I also realize that if we're trying to count on Will Garlock to kind of save the season, then this ship it's in a giant circle with the rudder stuck. That's enough naval analogies for today. All right, third big issue here. Third big issue. So we talked the 4 spot is it's just a mess right now. The bench. The third one is the offense is still not playing with any type of cohesiveness. It feels like a lot of one-on-one players. It feels like a lot of guys trying to get their shot, over dribbling. There is not enough trying to set someone else up. 15 assists and 15 turnovers today. Nick Boyd, your starting point guard, 4 assists, 3 turnovers. There was a big stretch of this game. And Brian says, are we missing Crowell yet? It's my guy. I love Crowell. But I lost my train of thought. I got lost in Stephen Crowell memories for a second. Nick Boyd. So there was a point in this game, and it really frustrated me. Nolan Winter was 6 of 6 or 7 of 7 at this point in the game. And then we went like 5 minutes without him getting a shot. Listen, Boyd, that's on Blackwell, that's on Rhodey, that's on guard. Nolan Winter was cooking. You got to in a game where you're struggling to score, your leading scorer, the guy shooting 100% from the field, can't go 4.5, 5 minutes without a shot. He just can't. Some of that's also on Winter. Winter's got to be a little more aggressive, but you got to recognize who's hot. You got to recognize who's shooting the ball well and run some action for him. Put him in some down screens. Put him in some elevator screens, or just get him some shots, because he was the only one really playing well for a period of this game. And it felt like we went too long without trying to take advantage of the way he was playing. We're going to talk about that coming up in a second here too. Nolan Winter is one guy that, in my opinion, absolutely brought it today. Let's take a quick break for our friends of the show. Come back with your comments. We got how many starred comments? We got 37 starred comments already. We're going to get into all those next as well. First, a quick second for our friends of the show. And as always, a quick second to say thank you for tuning in to Locked On Badgers. Today's episode brought to you by our great friends over at Wayfair. Holiday season is here. We know it's here. And it can be stressful to find the right gifts, the right stuff. Not with Wayfair. Wayfair makes it really easy, because the holidays show up faster, but Wayfair is always there to have you covered like a great 5 with rim protection. And if you're still putting those gifts together, you need last-minute decor, you're getting your home ready for guests, Wayfair has you absolutely covered. Whether you need that quick room refresh or bedding or final seasonal touches, Wayfair, it makes it easy to get what you need fast. And you get to choose whatever really you want, right? Whether you're looking for room stuff, outdoor stuff, seasonal decor, gifts for anybody, kitchen essentials, gifts for every style and every budget, and unbelievable shipping prices, no massive delivery fees, no stress. It's the best way to get your home holiday ready without running around to different stores. Get those last-minute gifting essentials, hosting essentials, gifts for all your loved ones, and decor to celebrate the holidays for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Today's episode also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season moves really, really quickly. Life moves quickly, but man, this season's almost already over. We're getting geared up for the playoff run, and one big play, suddenly everything changes. And that's what makes live betting on FanDuel so exciting. If you're into sports betting, but you've never done live betting, it's really cool. In the middle of the game, as momentum shifts, big plays happen, you can adjust your bets. The player props adjust, the live spreads adjust, the money lines adjust instantly, and it's a great way to stay engaged in the game no matter what's happening. Like, this was a wild game today with Wisconsin Nova, right? First half Nova, second half Wisconsin, overtime Nova. Live betting would have been a ton of fun in this one, just to stay engaged in that action. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com. Place your live NFL bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and now so can you. I do think we need to talk about Nolan Winter here. Let's talk about Nolan Winter, and let's get into some of your chats. Nolan Winter, to me, absolutely showed up today. Absolutely showed up. 9-12 from the field. Started, I believe, 7-7, had 11 rebounds, played incredibly hard, was on the deck after loose balls, challenged 2 or 3 shots at the rim, turned them away, got toppled over by an elbow to the chest. Guys, Nolan Winter, as your big man, played 43 minutes. Guys, you can't ask for more. You can't ask for more. And he had the game tying shot after he airballed a 2-footer, but he did get it back and get the game tying shot. Nolan Winter, far and away the player of the game. I thought he was great today. He's been inconsistent. Will Hannah, Winter was very, very good. He played like he gave a crap today. He played hard. He played consistent. He was energetic. He was playing hard defensively. He was challenging shots at the rim. He was one of your only rebounders that was really in there fighting for defensive rebounds. Shot with confidence. He played really well. Really, really well. If Nolan Winter's the least of the problems on this team, I think he's a little miscast as a 5. Right. Again, he is a natural 4, having to play the 5 without a lot of help in the front court right now. That's another thing. He doesn't have any help. You know, it's really just Nolan Winter. He played absolutely phenomenally today. And that was about it. I don't know who else you point at and you say they played great. John Blackwell, I thought, played better in the second half, but I don't think he was great in the first half. Nick Boyd, it's just consistency with him. And this team, it's consistency with this team. That first half, they scored 22 points. And then they came out and played great in the second half. And then in overtime, they laid an egg. This team just can't consistently do anything for 40 minutes really well right now against a good team. Like, what would you say this team can go to consistently offensively? I don't think they have an identity. Defensively, it's up or down. You know, they're still they're still getting gashed by some kind of pick and roll slip stuff where Villanova went to that a couple times. That backside defense has to be better in big moments. Defense was better today. I will say that. Coming off that Nebraska game, that was a 90. Let's stay on the good here. And then I want to get into your comments, I promise. Let's stay on the good. Coming off that 90-60 Nebraska game, this team did play a lot harder today. That Nebraska, and being better than that Nebraska game is a really low bar. But this team did play better today. They played harder. The defense was more connected. They still got to get a little stickier on shooters. There's still a few too many open three-point shots that teams can get up for my liking. Some of that is screen communication, right? You'll see, especially our bigs, in my opinion, especially our young bigs, they just don't communicate well on screen. So you'll see guys like Black One Roadie get picked off, and there's just no help from the bigs. There's no real communication there. It's a young defense. They're not communicating well enough. But the defense was better. The team played harder. There was a great second half comeback. You have to give credit. Villanova's a good team. But then you went and collapsed in overtime. Your first possession down, you give up a three where you don't communicate on a screen. And then your first offensive possession, you just throw the ball at a bounce. You can't do those things. You can't miss the front end of free throws. You can't throw the ball out of bounds in the first possession of overtime after you fought that hard to get back. Again, it goes back to consistency. It goes back to this team just can't string enough good together to get over the hump against really good teams. And that's going to be a problem. Tony says talented players been inconsistent as a team. I think it's a really good way to put it, Tony. I think that's a really good way to put it. It doesn't feel like the pieces all fit together really well. It's like a knockoff Lego set. They don't all fit together as well as real Legos. And you still try to mash them in, but it just doesn't work quite as well as a real Lego set. Tyler Streeper, Ryan, who can we get before the trade deadline? Maybe Brad Davison has a couple more years that we can finagle out of the NCAA. They're super inconsistent. Diego Pavia can play till he's 25. Maybe Davison can get another year or two. Let's get some of these star comments because I definitely want to hit these. Paul, yeah, we talked about this, Paul. It's so obvious this team has no bench. We definitely hit on that one. Paul also says no tournament this year. I would counter by saying the NIT is a tournament. NIT is a tournament. I would counter with that. Philip also says his team isn't making a tournament. Sorry, their offense is easy to shut down, and they are inconsistent at best on defense. I want to talk about the offense here, Philip, because they are inconsistent on defense. But the offense was supposed to be the calling card of this team. And it's the offense today that really let them down. 22 points in the first half. They end up with 60-something with an overtime period. The offense needs to figure out a way to generate easier looks. And they just consistently cannot do that. Part of that's because they don't have a post presence, but part of it, again, is because players are settling for one-on-one shots too often. They're settling for contested shots too often instead of really trying to run offense and find easier looks. Really pass the ball. And not just pass the ball. Get the ball moving from side to side. Really stretch the defense. Get a action on the left side and then skip it to the right and get into another set. Right? They have to do something to stress defenses. And in theory, they have enough shooting and playmaking to do that. But I feel like the players aren't either buying in or the system isn't working for them. Yeah, just offensively, the team is too easy to guard. I think you're dead on, but it shouldn't be. This team should be harder to guard than it is. But again, it goes back to the fit. It goes back to the pieces not fitting together. And I do think occasionally you're going to see this in the portal. Occasionally you're going to see teams that just on paper going into the season make sense, or at least you think they're going to make sense, or at least I thought they were going to make some sense. But then when you see it all kind of come together, it just isn't working the way you thought it would. Let's take a second here, get into the rest of your comments. Also, take a second to say thank you to Mike behind the mic, who is, again, running the comments, starring the comments. Great dude, and he really does a ton of work to make these shows better, to make the Badger community better. He's also active in the Discord, so I always want to be thankful for him given his time. He also obviously gets an exorbitant locked-on salary as a helper here. It's a generous benefits package, let me tell you. Let's take a quick second here for our friends of the show. We're going to come back. Your comments. Is there a way out with this team this year? What's your confidence level this team makes the tournament? The real tournament, not the NIT. What's your confidence level, 0 to 10? We'll do that next on Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show over at Rocket Money. You ever feel like your money just kind of, disappears each month? Kind of happens fast. You log in, a few subscriptions here, a latte there. Suddenly the numbers in your bank account don't really match what the numbers are in your head. Rocket Money helps you get clarity, track every dollar, stay in control of your finances because managing your money shouldn't feel like a second job. We do enough work. This should be easy. Rocket Money does the heavy lifting for you so you can save more and stress less because money is stressful. I think whether you're have more of it or less of it, or you feel good about it or not, money is always kind of stressful anyway. Rocket Money helps you manage that stress by providing clarity to what you got going on, help you plan out what you're doing. It is a really powerful tool that brings everything into one dashboard, which the simplicity of that by itself makes sense. That makes it easier. I like how Rocket Money automatically builds budgets based on past spending. So you don't have to go through a bunch of time to try to import all of this and figure it out. It already kind of understands who you are and then tries to work with you to get yourself in a better financial spot, which we should all be trying to do, right? Like get a little better there. And then maybe we can meet some of our financial goals a little sooner. We can stress less. We can enjoy life more. That's what Rocket Money is here to help us do. Having an app like this saves time. It keeps you consistent with your financial gains. Take control of your finances and cancel your unwanted subscriptions with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon college today. rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Also want to say thank you for making Locked On Badgers one of your first listens every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. If you want to take it up a level and go ad-free, join the Everydayer Club for Locked On Badgers with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more just for $5 a month or $50 a year. Check the show notes for more details. All right, let's get some comments in here. What do you guys think? I think that's where we're going to go next with this thing. Giuseppe says, Mike behind the mic, glad you came back. Dude, like, Mike is essential to this. I'm telling you right now, we could not do what we do without Mike behind the mic. Okay, let's get some comments. And we'll just go down the list. Steven says, Guard was getting kudos earlier in the season for what you guys thought was a good roster. It's starting to show it's a very poor roster. Yeah, it's fair to be critical of Greg Gard, Steve. Like, it really is. Ultimately, Greg Gard is the architect. Greg Gard and his staff, but it's his staff. They are the architects for this roster. They brought in 4 portal players, and you start to look down the list, and Austin Rapp feels like a miss. Now, Austin Rapp has years of eligibility left, but as of right now, for what they intended him to do, it feels like a miss. It feels like not getting a 5 is a problem. It feels kind of like Nick Boyd, while not a miss. I wouldn't call Nick Boyd a miss, but it does. I'm not sure if he's a great fit next to Blackwell. I like Andrew Rohde. I don't have an issue with Andrew Rohde. I think he was brought in to be the 4th or 5th starter, and I think in that role, he's just fine. But I know some other people are a little more frustrated with him. I don't have an issue with Rohde. And then Elijah Gray was the other guy who's already dismissed. Rob Jansen, they missed Penny. I think some of the adjustments that Penny would have would be helpful. And I said this when they lost Penny and they hired Brad Davidson. I have no issue with the Brad Davidson hire, but he can't be your offensive guy. He can't be the guy that replaces Penny. Go get another player. Bring in Brad Davidson because I think he's a great culture guy. I think he'll recruit well. But then you still need a coach on that bench that brings some innovative offensive ideas. And I don't know if they fully replace Kirk Penny in that sense. You're missing Penny. Rob says, Badger football and basketball are struggling with this new NIL era. Yeah. No, I mean, nothing else to add there. It's 100% sure. Rob also asks, has Guard lost the locker room, or do the players just play for the money and just move on after 1 year? Hard to build team unity with a bunch of hired guns. Yes. So on this one, I would say yes and no. I don't think Guard has lost the locker room. I don't think that's true based on anything I've heard or conversations I've had. But I will say part of your job as a head coach is to find a way to build that unity and to find a way to build that unity in an era of players that transfer in and out. And it's not easy, but that's part of your job. So I don't want to lean on that as an excuse because there are coaches out there that do it. And you also have a lot of pieces coming back. You have a Blackwell coming back. You have a Winter coming back. You have a Janicki coming back. Those guys should be carrying on the culture of the team and the unity of the team. And if you don't have it, I don't want to just blame that on the era we're in. That's on the coaching staff. Is it easier or is it harder now to build that culture and that camaraderie and that? Yes, it is 100%. And coaches will talk about that, but it's still part of the job. It's still part of what you have to do to be successful. Thomas says it's over. There is no identity at all on this team. That's basically a 5 versus 3 on offense, and the 2 bigs have no clue defensively at all. I don't think it's over, but I'm also a guy that wants to believe. I don't know, man, but I don't know how they fix it either. I think very clearly the thoughts that this team could be a top four-ish, top five-ish team in the Big Ten. I don't think they're not going to hit that ceiling. I think we can close the book on that unless something miraculously changes. Can they still? Listen. Let's be also very clear. Nova's a good team, and this was a game that they went into overtime with Nova. Now they collapsed in overtime, and I don't want to minimize that, but they get a different bounce at the end of the game, a different bounce or two, and maybe they win it in regular season, and the whole tenor of this show changes. Right, a 2-point win versus a 2-point loss, or a close win in regular in the regular session. Geez, regular time. I can't even think of the word I'm trying to think of. I'm frazzled. But a close win by going to overtime and losing, and everything we're talking about feels a little different, right? This team did look a lot better than it did against Nebraska. They are capable of playing well in spurts. It's going to be about consistency, and can they do it over 40 minutes? That we still need to see. So I don't think it's over, but I do agree with you that this team is lacking identity right now. Slim, if they don't make the NCAA tournament, can we finally say fire guard? I don't think it's a fire guard time for me. I know there's people that are there. Every viewpoint on this show is valid, or it's fair. We're going to talk about it. I'm not going to tell you don't have the right to think like that or believe like that, because that's not what this community or this show is about. But I think you're looking at a guy that had a really good year last year, has won 70-ish% of his games in Wisconsin, has generally done pretty good in the portal, has no issues off the court at a university that's had some of that at other programs. And you're also at a university where you moved away from a pretty successful coach that maybe didn't hit the ceiling in a Paul Christ. And then look at where football is right now. You run a big risk if you want to move on from Greg Gard. And I don't think you're going to find a coach that's going to come in and be dramatically better. And you have a better chance at bringing somebody in who's way worse. And then what do you do? Then you're in shambles. So no, I totally get the frustration, and I know there's people that have maybe never really been on the Greg Gard bandwagon, whatever that bandwagon is, but no, I don't think you fire him. I'm not even really close to that, to be quite honest. Austin says, going to miss the tournament 3 out of the last 8 years because there's no way this team makes the dance, but there will still be people that defend Greg Gard. It's hard. Yeah, I guess I am one of those people. But listen, last year team was great. You know, he brought in a John Tonje, who's an All-American, won a bunch of big games. I don't know. I think you got to be really careful moving on from a coach that's been pretty successful and understands your culture. And I think we see that all the more given what has happened with the football program. R. Smith says the team ceiling is a Sweet 16 of the NIT. Oh, that's brutal, man. Tyler, yeah. Team doesn't have depth. It's so true. And that's on the staff. Bo says, I knew Winter was a 4, but Gard didn't. I think they thought, and I thought this too, I thought you could play Winter at the 5, but really space teams out. Like, he was never going to be a traditional 5. I never thought that either. But you could play a pick and pop 5. But for that to work, Austin Rapp has to be good. It's not so much Winter again. Winter, if your 4 spot isn't a complete no-show, Winter is better. It's just that Winter's literally the only front court player you have right now, which is wild. He played 43 minutes. I think Winter's fine at the 5. He's better at the 4, but he scored 23 and 11 today. That as the 5, that's fine. That's great. The problem's the 4. It's not the 5. Bucky says, serious question. To what degree does Boyd being one-handed limit the offense? Not as much as it should, to be honest. Like, he still gets downhill pretty well. A few too many turnovers, but I don't think he's the problem either. Not the biggest one. Again, I think the bigger problems are the 4 and the lack of the bench depth. Now, Boyd needs to pass a little bit more, but that's not a left-hand, right-hand thing, in my opinion. I just think he is too much of a scorer's mentality right now. Let's go back into – let me get some of these numbers that you guys had in terms of confidence in making the tournament. Let me see if I can get back to it. And again, I'm not going to get to every comment, which I apologize for. Oh, there's a lot of comments in here. You guys are amazing. By the way, thank you for being part of this community. I know this is not the apex of Badgers football and basketball, but at least we have each other, and I really do appreciate everybody in here. Just a comment from Crops, fire him. Again, I don't think that makes sense. I just don't think that makes sense. Steven says he lucked out on Tonje. Maybe. Or maybe, I don't know. That's almost then did he just not get is it bad luck with Rap? I don't prescribe a lot of luck to Tanjay, I think you make your own luck, right? Tanjay was a great get, give him credit, and Austin Rap looks like a bad investment and give him blame. I think it's as simple as that for me. I'm not going to not give him credit for Tanjay, but he does get the blame for Austin Rap if it doesn't work out and it doesn't turn around, and I think that's very fair. Doc says Nova plays hard and is much more athletic. Yeah, Nova's good. I mean, Nova's 2 losses this year. You're talking about BYU and Michigan, 2 of the better teams in the country. They're good. They have a good backcourt. They have size. They are more athletic. But I think the Badgers, I don't think the Badgers are as unathletic as people think. Nick Boyd's a really good athlete. Blackwell's plenty athletic as a 2. Nolan Winter is one of the more athletic 5s you're going to see. Certainly the Badgers could use an athletic wing, and Braden Carrington not playing hurts them, but I don't think they're as unathletic. Oops, sorry. Mike, throw that comment back up there. I missed the comment. Tyler says slightly better than 50-50 making the tournament. By the time this team gels, if they ever do, it may be too late. And they may never gel, to your point, if they ever do. Yeah, I think right now, if I had to put a number on making the tournament, I think it's like a 25% chance, 30% chance. I think it's more likely that they miss it than they make it. And that absolutely stinks. This is a good comment here. And I'm not trying to crush anybody, but Power. Janicki is a huge disappointment so far. You need more from him. On a bench that bereft of scoring, bereft of playmaking, 17 minutes a game and 3 points, it's not good enough. Now, defensively, Janicki's one of your better players, which is why he's going to play, but you got to get more than 3 points per game from him. You just have to. Let's throw a couple more of the starred comments up here, and then we'll let everybody go. R-Dub, hockey. Yeah, at least we still have hockey. Mike, let me know if there's any other comment you really wanted to get to. If there's anybody else that really hates what I'm saying or disagrees with it. Clint says, nailed it, Ryan. On paper, this team looks so promising, but it's just not happening. Tyler Strieber says, Mike's the man. Yep, absolutely. Winning Gambler, thank you, Mike, for moderating us bums. Let's take a couple more comments. Mike, let me know if you have any really good ones in here that you want to hit. Mike the GOAT. I love it. That's from Raul. Raul's a good dude, man. Raul's in a lot of these chats. I've talked to him on one of the live shows. Skylar says, nothing's going to change unless they change something with Boyd. So I would like Boyd to be – I would almost like Boyd to play a little more off ball at times, and I would like Rhodey or Blackwell to maybe have a little bit more of a playmaker role. Blackwell did that last year, and this team was pretty successful with it, and I continue to think Rhodey's the best passer on the team. So I think maybe playing Boyd off ball is a way to initiate offense a little more efficiently because he's looking to score more, and his assist to turnover ratio hasn't been very good this year. So I could see that, Skylar, if maybe that's what you're thinking. But ultimately, I continue to think the 2 biggest problems on this team, it's the 4 spot and the bench, and neither of them are tied to Boyd. The 4 spot, you just need Rapp or Bialuskas to figure it out. And the bench, I don't know what the answer is. Like I said, you could pivot to Kinzinger, you can pivot to Garlock, but I don't think they're the answer either. I think this team just lacks depth. Listen to these minutes played today, guys. And I know this was an overtime game, which bears into this, but Rhodey played 36 minutes, Blackwell 38, Boyd 42, and Winter 43. That's insane. Even if this team starts to figure it out, they're gonna be dead by the time February comes. You can't put that type of, especially on a big man. You can't put 42 minutes on Nolan Winter. But I don't know what the answer is because I don't know who you take him off the court for. All right. Yeah, Winning Gambler, so many questions, very few answers. Now, again, though, I'll leave with this. And again, I appreciate everybody for tuning in. This was a better performance today. You did see the defense step up. The defense played better. The defense had moments where Villanova had a really hard time getting into the paint. They also had moments where they had slip screens and layups, but there was a 4 or 5 minute stretch in that second half where every shot Villanova took, it felt like a contested 2. So this defense played a lot better. Offense needs to be consistently good for them to win, which they weren't today. But it was a close game, and then overtime it kind of fell out from underneath them. So maybe something to build from. Nolan Winter played great. Got to get some other pieces around him though. Mark Benson, Winter played all 5 of the OT plus the 38. That's insane. Again, Winter was a stud today. Winter was an absolute rock star today. Definitely somebody that played with his heart on his sleeve. Offensively, defensively, on the glass. He played great, but he didn't have enough help. All right, we're going to wrap it there, guys. On Wisconsin, enjoy college football playoffs. Enjoy the NFL. Enjoy the weekend. Y'all are absolutely, every single one of you is absolutely amazing. Locked On Badgers says on Wisconsin. I don't even know who is that? Who is that comment? Because it's not me. I think maybe that's Mike. Okay. Mike threw me for a loop there. On Wisconsin, I appreciate you guys so much, and we will definitely talk later.